Hello and welcome back to my workshop for another of Harry's Jeti clinics. I'm going to do 2 episodes looking at programming flying wings. They could be gliders, they might be powered models, delta wings, things like the Car Eurosport, on which I've done a whole series. In these 2 episodes I'm going to use particular examples, being a pair of gliders. In this one, the multiplex Cortina, which I must admit I'd never heard of before. They must have stopped making it a long time ago, which is a flying wing glider with 4 trailing edge surfaces and I believe air brakes. And in episode 2 we'll have a look at the Taborka by Let, which has 6 trailing edge surfaces and does interesting differential crow braking for rudder. As I say, these videos will apply to any tailless model using wing controls. We just happen to be using gliders as the examples to give the settings. So let's fire off and create our model. Here we go, menu, model, new. I'll just give it the capital letter C for Cortina, rather than make you sit through me typing out the whole thing. Model type, aero. On we go. Now here we go. We've got 4 trailing edge surfaces. So what do we choose? Do we choose the 2 flap, 2 aileron? I suggest not. I suggest we want them all to be ailerons. So to get that, we have to choose the 2 flap, 4 aileron. Okay, because it doesn't offer us a no flap 4 aileron wing. Come down here, the tail type, of course, will be none. It's an elevon delta type of wing. In the case of a glider, there's no engine count, and because I understand that the Cortina has air brakes, I'm going to put them in just so that it creates the function, so that I can show you a little bit of mixing the air brake control to the elevator trim in case you need that, and it helps adjust it. Okay, so from there on we go. It's created the functions for us. We can try getting rid of rudder. We can try getting rid of flaps, but they will come back in functions. You just have to accept it. Doesn't make any difference to anything. Not going to bother us. So further on we go. Here we go, aileron 1, 2. Right, let's get rid of the flaps. So we'll make that one aileron 3. Make that one aileron 4. That can become air brake 1. That can become air brake 2. And then these channels can be emptied. There we go. Now, I've laboured it before in previous videos, and I'm going to do it again. You'll notice that we've got aileron 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's nothing to do with the channels they are assigned to. It happens to be that, in channel 1 we've got aileron 1. But we could move aileron 1 to any channel. We could move aileron 2 to any channel. And the sequence in which they come in the channel numbers is irrelevant. We could move aileron 1 to channel 24, aileron 2 to channel 7, aileron 3 to channel 1, and so on. That doesn't matter. What really does matter is this number here, the aileron 1, 2, 3, and 4, because those should be plugged in to, starting at number 1, the most left-hand servo out on the left wing. Aileron 2 will be the next servo to the right of that. Aileron 3 will be the next servo to the right of that. Aileron 4 is the next one to the right of that. If you're just making a very simple 2 aileron model that does nothing but put on my ailerons, 100% off we go, fine. It's not going to make the slightest difference if you plug the right hand wing aileron into aileron 1 and the left hand into aileron 2. But as soon as you want to try doing things like differential, elevator, delta wing mixing, any other mixing, it really starts to make a difference. So just get in the habit with ailerons, with flaps, with multiple elevator servos, dual rudder servos, etc., whatever. Number 1 is the most left hand. Number 2 is the next. So it goes from left to right, just like reading. If you've come from multiplex, you're probably used to the sequencing being left wing, right wing, left wing, right wing, left wing, right wing. I have a feeling, I'm not sure, that JR does it from right to left. So if you're new to Jeti, just get used to it. Jeti does it left to right, and that's the way to best get used to it. So on we go. Oh, by the way, having deleted the flaps and rudder from the servo assignment, they will not reappear. So even though the functions will keep reappearing in the functions menu, the servos won't. This one is locked in, unless you press the auto button. In that case, it'll reassign everything the way it was originally. So once you got things the way you like, don't press auto, because not only will it add rudder and flaps back in, but it will reassign all the sequences as well. So you'll lose that. It won't just add rudder and flaps in at the end. On we go. Create and activate model, yes. Okay, pair the receiver now, yes. Pick up that one. There we go. And we're away. Okay. Now the programming for this will be done in fine-tuning Delta Elevon mix. If you haven't seen this before and thinking, I've not seen that in the menus, it only appears because we chose the no or Delta tail type. If you haven't done that, then this menu won't appear, so don't worry if you haven't seen it before. And if we take a look in there, it shows each of our servos from left to right, so 1, 2, 3 and 4, and it shows what travel it's going to give each of those servos for the elevator function and each one for the ailerons function. But notice that that's an up and down travel. It's not a separate up travel and a separate down travel. It's just got the one for both. But we'll have a look at how you can tweak that should you need to. And it's defaulting to 50% for each. So if you pull full up elevator, the servo will move halfway. If you move full aileron, the servo will move halfway. And if you pull full up and full aileron, it'll combine the two together and you'll get full aileron travel. Let's have a look at what's going on with our little pretend Cortina wing. So here we are from the left side, servo 1, aileron 2, aileron 3, aileron 4, and hopefully the arms will work in the sense that if you look at the outer side of them, we'll pretend that that's emulating the control surface. So if the outer edge goes up, then the control surface has gone up, like up elevator. So I'll pull up elevator, see what happens. Oh, there we go. No need to do any servo reversing for this. There's down. Ups, downs. I will go left aileron and right aileron. Upses, downses, yeah. That is left aileron. Right. So what do we need to do? Well, we need the travels from the instructions. Now, there's a few different suggestions for the Cortina, but I will use the ones given by Multiplex, which is interesting. For elevator, we'll take a look at elevator first. They want the outer servos, which is aileron 1 and aileron 4, to be plus or minus 9, and the inners to be plus or minus 18. Okie doke. Well, let's go into the inners, which is servo 2 and 3, turn them up to 100% and see what happens. So we come down here into elevator, along to servo 2, and notice this little thing here. This means symmetry. It's highlighted, so symmetry is switched on, which means if I adjust this, the entire row will get adjusted with it. Watch this. See that? Which we don't want, of course. So we switch symmetry off. And now if I adjust it, it adjusts only that one. Lovely. I want to get up to 100%, so rather than keep scrolling the wheel, I'll press the menu button once, times 10 appears. So each click is now 10%. There we go. Let's move along here. Symmetry is still switched off. Press that. Times 10, 100. So now, that's the sort of response the servos will have to elevator. The outers will only have half the response of the inners. Let's take a little look. There we go. See how the inners have got much more up elevator than the outers. And it applies to the down as well. and rather handy for the moment because the multiplex instructions say plus or minus 18 on the inners, plus or minus 9 on the outers, so that it's the same travel up and down for each of them. Okay, and so you just approach the model with your ruler, put it against the surface, do your bit to check the actual travel, and set the values in here accordingly. Okay, and notice then that you can slightly tune each individual servo. So if, for instance, servo 3 was getting the correct travel, but servo 2 wasn't quite there, you can turn servo 2 up or down a little bit just to get it correct, for example. Now, if you're dealing with the ailerons, what's going on there? Okay, again, multiplex instructions, it's sort of flipped around. This time they say the outers are plus or minus 18 and the inners are plus or minus 9. Okay, let's do that. Go into here. Symmetry still switched off, which means I can take that one up to 100, scroll along, take that one up to 100. Let's have a look at the effect. So here's the elevator we've already programmed, where the inners move much more than the outers. But now here's aileron, where the outers move much more than the inners. There we go. And that's it. And all you do is tweak the numbers in there to get the travel that you exactly want at the surface. And that's that basic job done. That's it. Okay. Now, in this particular example, multiplex plus or minus figures are exactly the same. What if they wanted something a bit different? Let's say they wanted less down than up. How are we going to do that when it doesn't offer us different up and down travels, only a sort of overall travel? We can do that in the function curve. So we come to the function curve, we go into elevator, press the curve button, change it to a 3-point, and come down to it, go into it. Right, we're ready to program. Now then, let's find out which of the two endpoints is the down elevator that we want to reduce. So if I move the stick, watch the target at the center move. I'll pull up elevator, goes to that one, down elevator, goes to that one. So we want to move that point there. I press the programming dial up to there. If I press menu button once, it will allow 10% steps in the function curves, although the little times 10 menu does not appear. So I'll press the times 10 menu button, and now there we go, each step brings it down. I'll take it down to a tiny 10% down elevator, simply really so you can see the effect on the travel. So we come back and have a look at our servos. If I pull up elevator, we get what we had before, but if I push down, it's tiny. See that? Very little there. Okay, so that's how you can have different up and down travels, should you need it, for the elevator. Let's put it back to the full amount. There we go. Okay. Now then, I mentioned that this model has air brakes. What happens if you pop the air brakes and it starts pitching up or down and you'd like a bit of compensating trim? Well, we're going to do that through a mix. So we come down to free mixes, add from air brake to elevator, come down to advanced. Now, I'm going to show you a problem you might encounter and think, what do I do about that? And I'll show you why it's happening and what you do about it. Let's stick in a master value straight away of nice big number. I'll stick it to 10. What I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that with my air brake stick in the forward position, I want no air brake, full air brake. Okay, so in that position, I don't want it to have any effect on the elevator trim. Well, let's have a look at the servos. there's the mix value. Let's have a look at the servos as I wind the mix value on. They move. Now we don't want that because we've got no air brake applied. So how do we overcome that? Right, we do that through the mixer curve. So we come along here into the curve, change it to a 3-point, into it, there we are. Now then, which end is the no air brake end? If I move my P4 stick all the way up, for me that's no air brake, so that's the no air brake end. The reason the gun sight representing the stick isn't moving is that there's 0% mix at the moment, so it can't travel vertically. But this end is the one we want to tune. So we come up to that one, take it down to 0. If I press the escape button, it'll come back one programming point. There we go. Can take that down to 50. Say OK. And now if we come back here, I'll let you watch the servos whilst I wind up the mixer. The no air brake position. I'll wind the mixer up and you can see nothing's happening. But if I pull the air brake stick, there you go, you can see it's affecting the servos. So, we've got that working nicely. I apologise for any background noise if you can hear it. That's one of the Royal Air Force's Airbus 400s going over. There's two ways of setting the mix value that you want. You can either adjust this value here, yeah, or you can set that to 100% and come down and adjust the up and down travel for each individual servo. So instead of being 100%, it might be 2, 3, 4%. If you wanted the mix only to affect the two inner servos, that's at servo 2 and 3, you could set the travels to 0% on 1 and 4. If you wanted the mix only to affect the outer servos, you could set the travels to 0 on 2 and 3. But for ease, it's probably just as well to stick running the mix value from here. Okay, right, well, I'm going to try and fly it and see what happens. And you'd like to tune it. Okie doke. Well, pick a sensible mix value. It's unlikely you'd want to trim 100%. You probably only need 2, 3, 4%. So pick a maximum value, something like 10%. And set a switch for it, which might be, for example, P6, the rotary knob on the side. I'll go in there, swing P6, there we go. But I need a proportional control, not a switching control. There we are. I'll leave a center on it because on this first flight, I don't know which way I want the mixing to go. Might need up, might need down. Say OK. And now if I move the control, watch the actual mix value. Move the control one way, I get negative mix. Move the control away from center the other way, I get positive mix. So I'll put it back to 0. And apply full air brake. Look over here. No mix because P6 is at the center value. Now if I move P6 one way, I get that little bit of trim. Back to neutral. Move it the other way, I get that little bit of trim. And so that's just trimming the elevators with the air brake. And so you can fine tune it on the first flight should you need to. Okie doke, that's it, and we'll be back soon with episode 2 looking at the fascinating Taborca Bilet models.